Jerry spoke with confidence. I was the one who built that house, so it rightfully belongs to me. You'll need to move out. Given that we're separating and considering your part-time income, I doubt you'll manage on your own. He let out a laugh as he presented her with the divorce papers. My name is Nancy, and I'm 35 years old. I recently started a part-time job at a local supermarket. I met Jerry at work 4 years ago, and we both decided to quit our jobs when we got married. Initially, I was keen to continue working, but Jerry preferred that I stay at home, so I became a full-time housewife. Even though I miss working, I eventually found myself longing to return to work. After many discussions, I managed to secure a part-time position. Jerry and I have been trying to start a family but haven't had any luck yet. I also really wanted a cat, but Jerry dislikes cats, so I had to let go of that idea. Initially, Jerry was content with me staying home, but he became increasingly upset when I started working part-time. He began to nitpick everything at home. "You went to work again today, huh? It looks like the house is getting messier. Are the clothes all wrinkled in the laundry? You're not keeping up with the housework," Jerry would complain. That wasn't true. I had finished all the cleaning before going to work, and the laundry was done perfectly. "What are you talking about? I'm doing everything just as I used to. It's clean, can't you see?" I responded, frustrated by his accusations. He even complained about the meals. "Fried chicken again? Can't you cook something different?" he grumbled. I didn't even make fried chicken that often and tried to keep our meals varied, especially since I knew it was his favorite. "I put effort into making your favorite fried chicken, and I make a variety of dishes," I defended myself. But every time I tried to explain, he just got angrier. "Are you saying you're too busy because of your part-time job? You're just pretending to be busy. Don't act like your job is important when it barely pays anything," he scolded. "You're only working because you're selfish. Your earnings were fine to begin with. Make sure you do the housework properly. Don't make excuses about not having time. It's embarrassing to work so hard for such a low wage." Jerry berated me, insisting that he wanted me to be a housewife so people wouldn't think we were struggling financially. His words were harsh and hurtful, reflecting his dissatisfaction with my desire to work. Jerry constantly belittled my part-time job, boasting about how his earnings were more than enough to cover our expenses. Being subjected to such cruel words every day was unbearable and often left me furious. However, an opportunity to step away came when we decided to visit Jerry's parents, whom we hadn't seen in a while. Despite my ongoing annoyance with Jerry, I welcomed the change of scenery. After a few hours' drive, we arrived at his mother's house, where she lives alone. She greeted us warmly, and after a dinner she prepared, Jerry left to play slot machines, leaving me to wash the dishes with my mother-in-law. Her demeanor suddenly changed. She wasn't as calm as before, and her face grew serious. As I made coffee, she sat down next to me with a grave look. "Nancy, according to Jerry, you're working part-time. Why do you need to work when he has a good job? Also, he says you're neglecting the housework because of your job," she stated, catching me off guard. "That's not true. I'm managing everything just fine," I replied, surprised by her sudden confrontation. "Oh," my mother-in-law continued, a look of disbelief on her face. "I've heard from Jerry about how poorly you handle the housework. There's no point in lying. He's been dealing with it all by himself. He's exhausted from work, and sadly he has to come home to a messy house. You're not cooking proper meals, are you? Quit that part-time job. Your workplace won't miss you. They can find someone else. Your job is to take care of the house. Focus on supporting Jerry properly from now on, and don't embarrass yourself as Jerry's wife." Her words reflected deep-seated traditional beliefs. She had married right after school, never worked a day, and fully embraced her role as a full-time housewife. Jerry was raised in a home where the wife's duty was strictly domestic, influencing his expectations of our marriage. However, my mother-in-law's harsh words deeply wounded me. At my part-time job, I felt supported and valued, a stark contrast to what I experienced at home. It was a positive environment where I felt appreciated and relied upon. Hearing such dismissive and demeaning talk about myself, suggesting I was useless, was heartbreaking. My efforts at work and home were significant, and it pained me to be so misunderstood and undervalued. Learning that my mother-in-law, who knew nothing about my job, had been fed lies about me by Jerry was a shock. Despite my efforts to maintain our home meticulously alongside my part-time job, I was disheartened to discover that Jerry had been disparaging me behind my back. I was working harder than ever, conscious of the demands of Jerry's job and trying my best to support him. However, overhearing him and his mother speak poorly of me over the phone was a bitter pill to swallow. Initially, I found it hard to accept and felt deeply hurt. In the following days, as I grappled with these revelations, my thoughts turned to my father. Since my mother's passing, he had been living alone in our family home, which was a fair distance away. I hadn't seen him recently due to my busy schedule, but needing some comfort, I decided to call him. Usually he answered promptly, but that day the phone rang longer than usual, heightening my worries until he finally picked up. "Nancy, it's been a while. Are you well?" he asked in his calm voice, which immediately brought me some relief, though tears welled up in my eyes. "What happened? It took you a long time to pick up. If you're busy, I can call back later," I managed to say. "No, I'm sorry," he replied. "I recently fell down the stairs and hurt my back. I can't move around much now, but don't worry about me. I'll be okay soon. By the way, what's going on? Is everything okay?" His admission shocked me. My dad, who had always been so active, had suffered a fall and injured his back. "No, I'm okay. Just make sure you take care of yourself and get better soon. I'll come to visit you soon, so wait for me," I assured him. "Yeah, I'm okay," he said. But his situation lingered in my mind. Now considered elderly, his recovery might be slow, and the risk of further injury was a real concern. The thought of him navigating the steep stairs in our old family home, especially the tall steps at the entrance and in the bathroom, made me worry even more. The fear of him getting seriously hurt was too much to bear. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I started to think how beneficial it would be to live closer to him, to be there when he needed help, or simply to ensure he was safe. This idea, once a mere wish, now seemed like a necessary plan to pursue. Realizing the urgency of the situation, I decided to build a safer, more accessible home for my dad nearby. I had some funds that came from managing apartments left to me by my grandfather. Originally intended for my dad's use, he had transferred them to my name as a precaution, advising me to keep them from my husband. All the rental income had been saved up over the years, and I planned to use this money to construct a new home for my father. The thought of providing such a meaningful gift filled me with joy, especially since I felt I hadn't been able to support him as much as I wanted in the past. Building the house would be a costly endeavor, and I couldn't keep it a secret from Jerry. Nervously, I brought up the topic, worried about his reaction. To my surprise, he seemed understanding at first. "I understand it makes sense to get him a new house considering his age. If you think you can handle it, go for it. Just don't expect me to help if things get tough," he said. His dismissive tone stung, but I chose not to retaliate. Avoiding an argument made things simpler, and I immediately started looking for a reliable contractor and initiated the construction process. However, it seemed like Jerry wasn't truly on board with the idea. He didn't voice his displeasure, but his silence was uncharacteristic. Jerry usually spoke his mind. My suspicions were confirmed when a shocking discovery at the bank left me reeling. I found out that $5,000 had been withdrawn from our account, all at once. I couldn't recall authorizing such a large transaction, and there was only one other person who could have made it. That night, I confronted Jerry. "I noticed today at the bank that $5,000 was missing from our living expenses. Do you know anything about this?" I asked. Jerry's response was arrogant and dismissive. "I gave it to my mother. You said you were building a house, so you must have been saving up somewhere, right? $5,000 isn't a big deal." I was astonished by his rationale. "Why would you give her that money?" Your mother isn't struggling, and that money was meant for our daily needs. It's not fair to take such a significant amount without discussing it with me first." His casual misuse of our funds and lack of communication was not only irresponsible but also deeply unfair. The situation highlighted a growing rift over financial priorities and respect within our marriage. During our heated argument, Jerry retorted sharply, "What do you know about my mother? She said she needed help. What's wrong with a son helping his mother? Besides, that money was earned by me. How I use it is none of your business. If it bothers you, try earning as much as I do with your part-time job. You can't say anything now, can you? Don't ever complain about what I do again." With that, he stormed out of the room. I had always trusted Jerry, despite his harsh demeanor, and wished he had discussed the matter with me first. Perhaps there could have been a way to help his mother without sparking such a dispute. Did he think I would object, or did he simply not trust me? Our marriage, which should have brought us closer, seemed only to be driving a wedge between us. Jerry saw no issue with using the money without my consent, and the next day he acted as if nothing had happened, heading to work after breakfast as usual. I remained silent, not wanting to ignite another argument, but I was left with a lingering sense of unease. Meanwhile, the construction of the new house for my dad was completed despite the troubles at home. The construction company was incredibly supportive, and I managed to create a beautiful home for him. As moving day approached, I hired movers to help pack his belongings, ensuring he wouldn't strain himself during the move. With just 3 weeks left until he could move in, I was brimming with excitement at the thought of doing something so special for him. However, as we discussed the moving plans, Jerry dropped a bombshell. "Hey, that house isn't for your dad. It's going to be for my mom. I have the right to decide who lives in the house I helped build, so it's going to be my mom," he declared firmly. I was stunned and responded in a mix of shock and defiance. "I built that house. It's for my dad. There's no way you, with your part-time job, could have built it. It's my money that paid for it, so don't act so entitled." It seemed Jerry genuinely believed that it was his money that had financed the house. When we had initially discussed building the house, he appeared supportive of the idea, but now it was clear he had always intended for it to benefit his mother, not my dad. This revelation was deeply unfair, and now I found myself having to prove that the funds used were indeed mine, a situation I had hoped to avoid. Realizing I needed to be honest about the rental income I had secretly saved, I decided to come clean with Jerry. "You're making up stories just because you want the house for yourself. If you're going to lie, at least make it believable," he scoffed, completely disbelieving me. He stormed off, leaving me bewildered, but I knew I had to help him understand the truth. When Jerry returned, his anger had visibly escalated. "You tried to trick me saying you built that house. You're a liar. That house is mine because I helped build it. You need to leave even if we break up. I don't think you can survive on your part-time salary," he spat out. His words left me speechless. The house was the result of my hard work and savings, and his demand for me to leave was shocking. "Sign this and get out tonight," he laughed cruelly, slamming divorce papers on the table before heading to his room. The papers were already filled out on his part. After constantly demeaning me, presenting the divorce papers like that was a new low. Perhaps he thought that threatening divorce would pressure me into caving and letting his mother move into the house. However, little did he know, I had enough money to live independently. This was the final straw. I signed the papers, submitted them, packed my bags, and left for my dad's house. My dad was surprised to see me arrive with so much luggage all of a sudden, but welcomed me warmly. After explaining everything, he patted my back and said, "You've been through a lot. You can stay with me in the new house. That would make me happy." Moving day arrived, and everything went smoothly with my presence. We successfully moved in without any issues. I found it strange that my ex-husband hadn't reached out after the dramatic scene claiming the house was his, but I chose not to dwell on it. wanting to move past thinking about someone I was now divorced from. However, a few days after settling into our new home with my father, something unbelievable happened. There was a commotion outside, and when I looked out the window, I saw a big moving truck parked outside. Confused, I rushed outside to talk to the movers and figure out what was happening. It turned out that the customer was my ex-husband, attempting to take possession of the house he had claimed was not mine. It became clear that Jerry and his mother planned to move into the house where my father and I were already living. Given our recent divorce, Jerry was practically a stranger to me now, and their attempt to forcefully take over the house was unsettling. The thought of Jerry's aggressive behavior instilled a deep fear in me. I quickly explained the situation to the confused movers and asked them to halt their work. Then, I turned to my father and called the police. I explained everything to them, and they confirmed that since the house was legally mine and Jerry and I were divorced, he had no right to enter the property. His presence there would be considered trespassing. When Jerry and his mother arrived, they were met by the police and were visibly panicked. The reality of the situation seemed to finally hit Jerry. Amidst the chaos of his mother's distress and the police's interrogation, he lost his composure and shouted, "What's going on? Why can't I live in this house?" Seeing him in such a state, I realized that dealing with someone like him was no longer an option. To protect my father and myself, I provided the police with crucial evidence. Thankfully, the situation was brought under control with the police's intervention. Later, I learned that Jerry faced severe consequences for his actions. In his determination to move into the house, he canceled his apartment lease and sold his mother's house, leaving them with nowhere to go. The movers charged him a breach of contract fee, and with a truck full of belongings, Jerry and his mother found themselves stranded on the street. The final piece of evidence I gave to the police was footage of the verbal abuse Jerry had subjected me to. Unable to endure his abusive language any longer, I installed surveillance cameras to record everything. The footage clearly showed me diligently handling housework while enduring his harsh treatment. This evidence was pivotal in demonstrating the extent of his mistreatment and supported my case against him. While Jerry continued to hurl unreasonable abuse at me, I used the evidence I had collected to press my case further. I hired a lawyer and took legal action against him, ultimately securing a settlement. The costs from the moving chaos and the settlement severely depleted the funds he had obtained from selling his mother's house, as well as his savings. As a result, Jerry and his mother ended up living in a rundown apartment. News of Jerry's troubles quickly spread at his workplace. His colleagues, recognizing the flaws in his character, began distancing themselves. Now, Jerry is isolated and looked down upon by everyone at the company. As for me, life has taken a much brighter turn. I finally adopted a cat, which has brought me immense joy. My father's back has fully healed, and we are now planning a trip with the cat. I also used the settlement money to open a shop specializing in cat products. Although the start was challenging and there were setbacks, the business has steadily improved and the shop is now thriving. Every day is peaceful and enjoyable, and I'm truly happy with the new direction my life has taken. I never imagined that standing up for my father would lead to such positive changes, but I'm convinced it was the right decision. Recently, there has been another happy development. A man who frequently visits my shop, always chatting warmly and being kind to both people and cats, has become a special part of my life. We've made plans to go for a drive together. I'm looking forward to living freely and embracing the new happiness that is on the horizon.
I've already made $20,000 without studying. My husband smirked in response to my question. That's not earning, I shot back, my voice trembling with a mix of frustration. It's no different than hitting the jackpot in gambling. It's luck, not work. Jared's smirk twisted into a sneer. That's why single-celled organisms like you are so irritating. You're too small-minded to understand real action. People like you just sit around making noise about studying while others succeed. At that moment, my father-in-law spoke up for the first time. A wife's role is to stand by her husband and support his efforts. Exactly, my mother-in-law chimed in, her laugh cold and dismissive. You're just jealous, because Jared is making money while you do nothing. My husband and my in-laws didn't yet realize how wrong they were. My name is Vivian Johnson. I'm 24 years old and a newlywed housewife. My husband, Jared, was a senior at the company where I started working after graduating from university. Would you like to go out for dinner sometime? Jared would call out to me, his voice warm and persistent, every time he finished work. After countless invitations, I finally said, okay, if you'll pay for me, that's fine. In retrospect, that might have been my mistake. Jared, seeing an opportunity with me, made a strong move. His serious and passionate approach quickly won me over, and we started dating immediately. In our second year of dating, Jared proposed, and we got married. After discussing with Jared, I happily retired from the company after only 2 years. My colleagues sent me off warmly. It's a waste for Vivian to become a housewife, said one of my colleagues. Another chimed in, that's right. Even if she gets married, Vivian should continue working. She's especially excellent among the newcomers. I majored in information technology at university, and I think I was good at my job in that field. My boss once told me, you work fast and make very few mistakes. To my peers, who didn't approve of my resignation, I explained, being quick at work and being good at balancing work and home are two different things, right? Right now, I want to focus on getting used to married life rather than work. I can always look for a job once my married life settles down. And with that, I left the company. Now, I've only been married to Jared for a few months, but now I regret the words I said when I quit my job. As a housewife, I'm only busy in the mornings. I make breakfast and Jared's lunch, then finish cleaning and laundry. From noon to evening, it's really boring, and I only go shopping once every few days. I never thought such boring days would start. Maybe deciding to quit was my mistake. Even if I think about it now, it's too late. I've already quit my job. Even if I say now that I want to go back to work, my boss would probably give me a dirty look. So, right after getting married, I started a data entry job that I could do at home. Working from home, where I could work whenever and wherever I wanted, and in whatever clothes I wanted, felt fresh and exciting to me. Before I knew it, I was able to earn a part-time wage. At first, Jared supported me. That's great, he said with genuine admiration. You can earn a part-time wage while taking care of the house. Vivian has found an efficient way to work. You're a model housewife. My husband praised me in front of his parents, but about half a year after starting my work from home, Jared's attitude changed. After marrying me, Jared was given more big deals and guidance to his subordinates at work, so he was away from home more often. On his rare days off, he would lie on the sofa all day with a tired face. You're lucky, he muttered one day. You can work leisurely at home. His words carried a sarcastic edge. On other occasions, he would say things like, you should hurry up and earn big money like me. His condescension stung. You agreed to me becoming a housewife, didn't you? I pointed out, frustrated. He shot back, shut up, and retreated to his bedroom. Before long, Jared and I were living separate lives within the same house, each occupying our own rooms. One day, Jared scoffed at me. Is the carefree housewife playing on her computer again today? Annoyed, I snapped, if you say it's easy and fun, why don't you try doing my job, Jared? You'll understand how hard it is. Instead of answering, Jared pulled out his smartphone and made a call. Mom, he said dramatically, Vivian is telling me to do both office work and work from home. After a few moments, he handed me the phone. She wants to talk to you, he said with a smirk. As soon as I took the phone, my mother-in-law's voice boomed through the receiver. You're a housewife, right? If you have time to tell Jared to increase his workload, you should look for a job and go to work. I tried to explain myself, but she cut me off sharply. Be quiet. This happened several times, and eventually my mother-in-law sighed heavily and said, That's enough, Vivian. I understand that you're a shrew. I'm worried about Jared, so I'll live with you guys. What? I exclaimed in shock, but before I could say more, she hung up the phone. You're kidding, right? Living together is no joke, I said, turning to Jared. I have to call her back and refuse, I added firmly. But Jared snatched my phone away. It's good medicine for you, he said, his voice dripping with malice. I'm all for living together. His creepy smile froze me in place, unable to respond. The next day, my in-laws came to our house and started discussing their plans to move in. There was a reason why I was adamantly against living with them. They were obsessed with appearances and status. My mother-in-law announced proudly, by the way, since Vivian is earning money too, we've contracted a $6,000 a month high-rise apartment in Jared's name. Jared grinned. Thank you, Mom, he said, while his father nodded approvingly. I couldn't believe my ears. Wait a minute, I interjected. Don't decide such important things without consulting me. Besides, even if we combine my husband's income and mine, we can't afford such a high rent. My voice trembled as I looked at Jared, who simply smiled triumphantly. Why are you smiling like that? I asked sharply, trying to decipher his smug expression. Jared held up his phone. I earned it for you, who can't make much money working from home, he announced. I did it with foreign exchange. Now I earn $20,000 a month. My heart sank. Did you study properly before doing FX? I asked, dreading the answer. Study? Jared sneered. I've already earned $20,000 without studying. That's why single-celled organisms like you are so annoying. People who can't take action are always noisy about studying. His arrogance was insufferable. That's not earning money, I said firmly. It's the same as hitting it big in gambling. Don't do FX anymore after this time. At that moment, my father-in-law spoke for the first time. It's a wife's duty to support her husband's work. Don't interfere with Jared's efforts. That's right, my mother-in-law added with a laugh. You're just jealous because Jared made money. Their laughter filled the room, their delusion evident. I knew my words would probably never get through to him and my in-laws, blinded as they were by the illusion of easy money. But staying silent would have felt like agreeing with their recklessness. Either way, stop messing with FX, I said to Jared one last time before walking away. A few days later, my in-laws and husband ignored my advice and proceeded with the move to the high-rise apartment. My in-laws seemed to misunderstand that Jared was working for a company called Forex. It's utterly ridiculous. Jared himself seems to be boasting at work, saying, I'm a genius to be able to earn money with FX without any knowledge. As for my in-laws, they are going around telling lies to the neighbors after the move, pushing their showy personality to the forefront. My son is the owner of an internet business. He's earning about $20,000 a month, they claimed. The neighbors, who live in the same high-rise apartment, are also confused by their reaction. Of course, considering that a family earns only $20,000 a month, moving into a $6,000 high-rise apartment must have left others thinking, that's way too little. I was so embarrassed. But now that we've moved, all I can do is what I have to do. I have to earn more anyway, since we have the rent for the high-rise apartment. After all, I can't rely on my husband's FX income. While attending a twice-monthly study group for work-from-home opportunities, I unexpectedly ran into a former colleague from my previous company. As we caught up and discussed work, she said, You were outstanding in terms of accuracy and speed. I'm sure you're capable of doing even more amazing things. Her praise felt like an overestimation, but given my current situation, I knew I had to come up with a new strategy. While I was still lost in thought, she spoke up again, almost as if she had been waiting for the right moment. By the way, my company is currently hiring a data analyst who can work from home. Would you be interested? She asked. Really? That's possible? I replied, surprised. Without hesitation, I accepted the unexpected offer and decided to return to my old workplace. Gradually becoming active as a data analyst, I was able to earn an income that easily surpassed Jared's monthly salary of $3,000 before I knew it. Of course, neither Jared nor his parents noticed the change in my income. She's probably just holed up again today doing something that doesn't make much money, my mother-in-law sneered. She's just incompetent as a wife and as a human being. There are other people who are more suitable for Jared. Why don't you find yourself a new wife? Such words were flying around in the living room with laughter. Well, they can say whatever they want, but I can't tell them about my income. If I did, They would probably take advantage of me. Maybe it would be better to divorce Jared. While thinking such things, I worked hard aiming for further income increase. And then came the day when I would take a new step in life. "What are you doing? It's time for work. You're going to be late," I exclaimed to Jared, who was still in his room even though it was time to leave. He was staring at his smartphone, scrolling aimlessly. "It doesn't matter. I'm not going in today," he replied with a strained expression, his fingers nervously tapping at the screen. Moments later, his parents entered the room, their expressions mirroring his anxious demeanor. "Why aren't you getting ready? You need to go to work," his father said, his voice tinged with concern. But since he didn't move a step from there, I decided to call his office for Jared. Then, when the situation had settled down a bit, my parents and I listened to his explanations. Jared admitted, "Actually, I've been making some mistakes with Forex recently. When I woke up this morning, $80,000 had disappeared into thin air, and I don't know why." I didn't feel any sympathy for Jared, who was holding his head in his hands. "That's what I told you, right? Forex is like gambling. It's not like you can earn money like a job, and the risk is high," I concluded. Then my in-laws, who had been listening to Jared's story with a puzzled look on their faces, became angry. "Why can't you sympathize with your husband's failure even though you're his wife?" my mother-in-law demanded. "That's right," my father-in-law added. "I thought you were a shrew from the start, but I didn't know you were so heartless. I didn't like everything about you. Get out of our house now." I responded to my in-laws, who were turning red with anger, with a completely opposite expression. "Thank you. I'd be happy to get a divorce," I said. At my overly joyful smile, both Jared and my in-laws were taken aback. "What are you talking about? Are you happy because I lost $80,000? But I can make that amount back right away. So stop joking about divorce," Jared said. My mother-in-law agreed with Jared's words. "Jared can make that amount back right away," she proudly echoed her son's words. And then my father-in-law also started to pick on me. "It's quite something for a wife who doesn't earn much to be able to divorce so happily. We won't know if you regret it," he added. The responses were so predictable that I found their scolding comforting. And then I told them, "You're the ones who will regret it. You don't understand the value of $80,000. I wish you and your son a long and happy life." I said that and left the house with the luggage I had packed beforehand. I quickly proceeded with the divorce proceedings, prepared the audio of my husband verbally abusing me from before, and claimed alimony before all of my husband's assets disappeared due to Forex. "What? Why do I have to pay alimony?" Jared protested. His attitude shifted quickly, fueled by his ridiculous pride. "That's right. You're going to be poor now, so you're just trying to get money out of me." After a pause, he added smugly, "Fine, I'll give you money, as a rich man to a poor person." In the end, my ex-husband ended up paying me around $20,000 in alimony. "Just wait, next time I'll get everything back," he yelled. "Good luck," his mother cheered him on. As a result, the in-laws' family could not afford to pay the rent and had to leave the high-rise apartment just a few months after the divorce. But people who have been living a luxurious life cannot suddenly return to a frugal life. They ended up in debt, and my ex-husband, who was struggling for money, finally got fired for dipping into company expenses. "Please just lend me $10,000, he pleaded over the phone one day. "If you're still doing FX like that, do you understand how much value $10,000 has?" I asked. "I can make $10,000 back right away if I hit it big in Forex," he said with some strange confidence. But what I wanted to tell him was not that. "I can't lend money to someone who doesn't understand the value of money," I said, and hung up the phone with my stupid ex-husband. I immediately blocked his number. And now I continue to work from home as a data analyst and occasionally go out for drinks with my colleagues. There, I met a younger man who was considerate and started dating him. We are now dating for marriage. He is sincere and kind, and above all else, he is sensible about money and relationships with people. I hope we can live together for a long time,